Hey guys, welcome back to Cult of Film. I am back with our man Night Patrol, and we are wrapping up today our reviews of the incredible cinema of Jordan Peele. Man, I was just telling the fellas that I just finished watching this movie. I think for like maybe the fifth or sixth time. I saw it in the theater twice when it came out, and I bought the digital copy immediately, and I watched it every now and again, and obviously rewatched it for our episode today. And what's really great about Jordan Peele's films is Jordan Peele, he's like the greats. He's like Hitchcock, he's like Nolan, he's like Kubrick, that his films get better and you see more and more detail with every viewing. And I'm catching more and more. Maybe it's because I just have my antennas way up, because you and I are doing these things. But I am just loaded with stuff to talk about today. But how about you, man? How many times have you seen this? Is this your first, second viewing?
The second.
Okay.
This is the second time. See, the first time I watched it, and I hate to always shoe this in because such a Japanophile. But yeah, actually, I didn't catch it during the original release. I actually caught it as an in-flight movie on my last trip to Tokyo, Japan. So it's I say that because it's a fond memory for me. I did that. That was like a year ago, and yeah, I was really blown away by the movie at that time. And then I watched it this weekend again, and it was just kind of reviewed it, and it was critiquing it and kind of cross comparing it to a last few movies we've been reviewing. Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on in here. From what I can, my biggest takeaway from it is that a lot of the Easter eggs or references and things like that, they're not so much on the nose in Nope as they are in the previous movies like Get Out and Us. It's definitely a lot more nuanced and on the nose type things that can definitely be studied. In this one, I think it's all in the script itself. It's all about perspective and how people see things. Even though there's a ton of things going on. I think the depth really comes in from the characters and their perspectives.
That kind of makes sense. I mean, I would assume it's like anything in life, that the more you do something, the better you get at it, the smoother your process becomes. And I'd have to go back and rewatch. I don't, you're talking about on the nose Easter eggs and references. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some surprises in this movie that are, if you know certain media, you know immediately where certain things are from, and I love that. But I will, when I rewatch this stuff, I'll take a look at that. But, to your point, yeah, he throws two things in this movie, which I don't want to start with that because it comes at the end, and it's such a gift to nerds. It's such a gift to, so many of us that spent a lot of time at conventions and in, our rooms watching wild shit. Anyways, we start again in this film with a little bit of biblical scripture. It is, as a matter of fact, it is specifically Nahum 3:6. So Nahum is a lesser-known prophet in the Old Testament, and the specific quote from Scripture is, "I will cast abominable filth upon you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle." And I read a really interesting thought piece from Vox that talks about how the concept of spectacle is sort of all throughout the movie, from the fact that everybody's kind of working in show business. The family started their family business and show business, starting with the great-grandfather, going down to the great-grandkids, the Steve Yeun character making his money off of, he was a child star and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know that that's that interesting. What I do think is super interesting is this guy has basically taken Jaws and mixed it with Alien in a way. And oh, by the way, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you're gonna want to turn this off because we're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie like we do a lot of others.
Spoilers.
Yeah. One other thing at the top before we dig into the plot, this is probably outside of the TV show The Bear, this is probably the most Chicago cast I've seen in a major motion picture. Both Keke Palmer and Angel, let me go back here. The kid's name, Brandon Perea. They're both from Chicago. Brandon Perea is from Humboldt Park, Chicago. So he's a local dude, and I'm just double checking my notes here. Keke Palmer. Let me make sure. Harvey, Illinois. So south side, far south side, Illinois.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's cool for you. As you know, again, I always sort of look for a Chicago connection. But
I'm a big
I guess
Keke Palmer fan.
Oh no, she's great. She's talented. She's funny. She's a great dramatic actress. She can sing. She can dance. She's one of those people that is just like, man, it's just, yeah, she's like a quadruple, quintuple threat. I'm not sure how you describe her, but no, I love her a lot. Yeah, we basically open Nope, which Nope seems to be the Peele's first truly sci-fi film. There's sci-fi elements to Us, and there's definitely sci-fi traces in Get Out. It's not the focus, though. This right here, Nope, the word Nope, I remember when the first teaser poster dropped and the first teaser trailer dropped, I remember thinking, what does Nope mean? I'm like, oh, maybe it's about, because he likes to make fun of, he's very meta with horror films, where if anything that happened in most horror films happened to you and me in real life, you and I would be like, go down in the basement? Nope, I'm out of here. So I thought maybe it's going to be something like that. And it kind of is, but then I would learn later that Nope stands for not of planet Earth. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, so, and that is, it's totally a UFO thing. But the opening,
that's right.
The opening was great with veteran legend actor Keith David, who others may know from John Carpenter's They Live, John Carpenter's The Thing. He's just a super popular and well-known voice actor. He's a super talented dude. We open with him as
Gargoyles.
Oh, I mean, he's just amazing. We open with him as the father. They're on the ranch. And then out of nowhere, out of the sky, bits and pieces of metal and debris sort of rain down. Well, unfortunately, Dad gets hit. Daniel Kaluuya's character, OJ, tries to get him to the hospital, and sadly, our curtain drops on Keith David. But it was cool that they got him in there. And yeah, basically, it's about this family: Daniel Kaluuya, OJ, and Keke Palmer, Emerald, trying to get a picture of this UFO. And it's, I don't know. If you want to jump in from there, I don't know how much I want to say just yet.
Yeah, let me, because there's,
there's also the whole level of, since their dad passed, they've sort of fallen on hard times. They lose at the beginning of after they lose their dad, they're down in LA on set for a project, and some dumbass spooks one of the horses, and then they fire them. Talk about, that was unfair. It wasn't them that did it. It was some dumbass stagehand that scared the horse. The horse then knocked something over, scared some people.
That's right.
So they have to figure out a way to keep money coming in. While that's going on, Daniel Kaluuya sees something in the sky at night, and then she sees it. They end up trying to go. They go to the local Fry's, which Fry's Electronics doesn't even exist anymore. In fact, I think Fry's had closed by the time this movie had come out. So it's sort of funny. They go to Fry's, and working there is Brandon Perea, who plays Angel, and he basically, gets them all their gear, and they're sort of talking, and he kind of reads between the lines. It's like, what'd you see? Like, he basically calls them out. It's like, okay, what are you trying to catch? What are you trying to record? And then they kind of bring him in on it, even though they're trying not to bring him in on it. He kind of wedges his way in there. It's a charming character. And then it's basically the three of them eventually enlisting the likes of this old veteran cinematographer to help them basically get a picture of this thing. Because and what I think is so cool about that is there's all this talk. I mean, the internet, media books are filled with stories about UFOs. But what we've never been given is that impossible shot. They call it the impossible shot in the movie of actual footage, an actual crystal clear photo, despite the fact that we've all had, fucking cameras on our phone for the better part of 15 years. No one seems to have been able to get, a photo of these things. So I'm a little bit of a skeptic. But what's great about this movie is they're like, oh no, we're going to do that. We're going to do it. And the entire movie, really, the whole crux of it is, this could save us. And again, sort of trying to, back to that Vox think piece, the whole point of it is, well, this is a spectacle. We have to capture it. It could set them up for life. One of the more interesting parts of this for me was the Steve Yeun character, who we have flashbacks to the 90s. Steve Yeun's character,
Ricky Park.
Ricky Jupe Park, was a child actor in the 90s. He did a short-lived sitcom in 1996 or something like that. Went 2 seasons, and the show inexplicably went off the air because one of the characters is played by a chimp, went crazy, and basically murdered almost the entire cast and crew. He survived. One of his co-stars survived, but he, since then, has kind of been milking the fandom of the show. He's created a theme park. He has like a little museum dedicated to the TV show. So it's part like, oh, this was a huge hit. People like it like old Nickelodeon shows, but there's also this morbid side of it that it stopped because of this sort of mass murder by this crazed animal. And he's, I don't know. I look at him sort of like he's playing the card he was dealt. He's doing the best he can. I don't necessarily have any moral problem with it per se, but I think one of the points that Peele might be making is that in some way he is kind of exploiting a great tragedy. He worked, granted he was a kid, but so many people were killed that day when things went awry, and he's kind of cashing in on it. So he's not a mustache twirling exploiter at all. But there is an ethical question that I think Jordan poses for the audience. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually had to do some digging on, and that was what I was really trying to get at as far as like the characters and their backstories and their motives and how they're really similar and how they all have they take their approach towards like these particularly tragic events, especially regarding the jean jacket, UFO alien or UAP. But and I had to study this a little bit because with Jupe's character, he was chosen one complex where everything was all about timing. Because this is something I have to look up as far as like,
say that again. He has chosen one complex.
Because he it's all in the script. It's all in the visuals of that particular moment. When the ape is attacking the co-stars for the show, and right. How he was basically seeing things from underneath a veil or underneath the curtain, underneath the curtain of a table, and was watching his other coworkers get attacked and mauled. The thing with him is that he was seeing things from his perspective, and during that whole massacre, he noticed a shoe on the floor of the set that was standing upright. And from his takeaway from that experience was that he experienced a miracle, or he saw a miracle, and that
or was that the bad miracle that Daniel Kaluuya mentions? He asks Kiki what a bad miracle is. So what are they saying? He saw a miracle or a bad miracle with the?
That's the thing. It's a perspective, because in their mind, what OJ was referring to as a bad miracle for Jupe was in fact like a miracle that saved him and really showed him that he was special or gifted in some way. Because I think because he was looking at the shoe on the floor, he was kind of distracted from seeing the chimpanzee like approach the table to come see him. So he wasn't looking at the chimpanzee in the eye, and that was one of the reasons why a lot of the co-stars were getting mauled, because the ape, gone ballistic. And a lot of the coworkers were looking directly at the chimp, which is like a direct threat. And that was like a really big thing in the movie, so to speak, that kind of helped them actually deal with the jean jacket in terms of, not looking directly at it. That was the thing that, they had to discover, going forward. But they learned it from Jupe's situation. Now the thing
Right.
is that with Jupe, he how it happened, how he was trying to exploit, he's all about exploiting spectacle, like what you're saying, like
Right.
he's trying to turn a profit out of, trying to bring the jean jacket, out for people to see, even though there's not a lot of people that really see it in the first place. But he had built, an entire, town as an amusement park to bring this to use to lure out the UAP, and he was doing it with horses, you know.
Right.
And that was his interest with OJ, was using, using OJ's horses that he was trying to sell for his, for his ranch, for his dad's ranch, basically to use it to feed the horses to the UAP, and to the jean jacket, so that way they could, get photos, and turn, you know turn the jean jacket into a spectacle that he can make a lot of money off of, because he's
Hmm.
right there. So he knew about the existence of the UAP. He knew about it, and that was his interest. Is that a lot of characters, they all were aware of the jean jacket. They were all aware of the UAP's existence, but they're all trying to find ways to exploit it. And that's why everyone at towards like the first half of the movie was very suspicious of each other, because they didn't want anybody getting into each other's business um, about getting footage of the UAP, because everybody wanted the footage first.
That's
But Jupe
that's
had
a
already
really
been there.
that's a
Yeah.
really good that's a really good point. We don't learn until Jupe puts on his show that he's been seeing the UAP. He's been selling tickets to people to view it. He turns around and there's literally a UFO embroidered on his jacket. So you realize, oh shit, this guy's known this. Maybe it's been months, maybe it's been a year. This guy has known about this and he's not said a word. Whereas for our family, the Haywoods, on the Haywood Ranch, this is brand new to them. They've encountered it immediately as a threat. It cost their father their life because the metal shrapnel raining down from the clouds at the opening was coming out of the UAP because it can't absorb non-organic material. It eats living creatures, and so anything that's left over, metal, bits of pen, coins, paper clips, that all gets expelled out, and sadly, that's what killed Dad. But no, you're right. There is everyone is trying to harness the spectacle for themselves, as a way to get a leg up in life, or to make a buck. And it's interesting. We see again in Nope the difference in approach. The Haywoods, they definitely want to get a picture of it, but it doesn't seem like they're doing it on a purely, not that there's anything wrong with trying to make money from it, but they want to prove this thing is real. Whereas it seems like Jupe was one step ahead, and he's just like, boom, how do I monetize this? I monetized my. He's done really well for himself based on 2 years of a sitcom he did as a child. Then, what is that? Anyway, on top of that, he has been kind of exploiting the tragedy that ended that since he was a little kid. So yeah, why wouldn't he try to do the same with this UFO? And it's interesting. Uh, he hasn't suffered any loss necessarily. So for him, this is just another great opportunity. Whereas for the Haywoods, it's boom right off the bat. It has taken their father. This is not good for us. We're in a really bad position. We've got to prove that this thing is real. This thing has been a threat to us, to our ranch, and it's again much like he did in Us, where you had I'm blanking on the families, but you've got Lupita Nyong'o's family, and then you have Elizabeth Moss family, and it's like night and day. And again, you see that difference in the approach to life, the difference just in terms of pure life circumstance, and how these people approach the UAP, the UFO.
That's really I feel like that's definitely biggest thing that made it so interesting. It's not so much the UAP itself. It was actually everyone's reaction to it, and their personal motivations behind, you know, wanting to have anything to do with it. Probably most normal people would probably, try to run away, get as far away as they could from that area, never speak
Right.
of it again. But everyone else, which made it so interesting, was just their personal conviction towards the conflict. Um,
Right.
and that made it
Well,
really
right at the beginning, after what had happened, and they realize there's something out there. Emerald, played by Keke Palmer, she says to OJ, "I'm getting out of here. We need to go." And OJ's like, "No, no, no, no." He wants to know what's going on. This thing took his dad. It's now threatening their land, and he's like, "No, no, no, no. We're going to find out what's going on here." So yeah, again, it's the conviction, the what would you do? I think we all want to think, oh no, I'd be OJ, and I'd try to hash a plan and try to take a picture. No, I'd be gone.
nope.
you know,
Key in
right?
point. It's another thing, like the title and the response. How that it's another thing that Jordan Peele does with his titles, how they kind of influence a whole story, and what more like Get Out refers to
Hmm.
that story, what Us refer to that story, and how Nope refers to this current story. It's usually like a response to the situation that's been presented towards protagonists, or towards the people who are in conflict of the certain circumstances. But that's really interesting, and it's cool that you brought that up too about OJ and Emerald, because they're both, I feel like all the main characters in the movie are very complex, and what makes this so interesting is their, like I said, back to the whole reaction of conflict, or their response to conflict, which made it really interesting. Like you can tell, like at the beginning when they were trying to record the commercial after after Otis, died from the debris. You
Right.
know, they were both kind of having issues with the movie staff or the film staff. Where OJ seemed really introverted, and he really didn't know how to communicate with the staff. He didn't know how to project his voice.
Right.
Where Emerald, she showed up late, to the recording, and she basically introduced herself, and she was very extroverted. She was able to communicate everything about herself very well. She talked about herself. She talked about the business, and she tried to attach the business to the and I can't remember the title of the film, but the first 2-second footage of a film shot with a black man riding a horse. They made
Right.
that connection, and that was really cool. But you go from that scene, then you go to the next scene where they're trying to go to to Jupe's amusement park, and they try to negotiate selling the horses to Jupe, and
Hmm.
how they both have different approaches. They were both fighting for the narrative that they were going to go for going into Jupe's office, and you know we learn about Jupe, his background. If it wasn't for Emerald mentioning that she knew him as a child star, we probably would have known about his whole thing with with Gordy, if it was just with OJ. So that kind of opened up a whole new thing. But going from that dynamic, going into the discovery of the conflict with with the UAP, um, you know, being visible, being sighted, moving around, um, and basically causing a disturbance. Their responses to it is what really created the story. It's like everything else from that point was just set up for us getting to know like the plot, the background, getting to know the characters, or the main characters are going to be a part of like that movie. It really set up, like the second act. We just got all of that, from the first act. But I thought that was really interesting because where one kid was like, "We need to get out of here." Emerald was like, "We need to get out of here." OJ was basically like, "No, we're not getting out of here. We're gonna deal with this." And that really made the movie a lot more interesting from there. Going forward,
Well,
because it's
yeah, I
like
mean, yeah, I mean, if they left, it would have been a 5-minute movie. But what I like is it feels like, again, without OJ saying it out loud, it cost him his father. This is really weird. Something's up, and it's just that desire to know. And he sort of represents all of us with regard to the exploration of the unknown, the whole concept of UFOs, UAPs, mysteries of the unknown, that type of stuff. He's like, no, I mean, it's the family ranch. He's not going to just walk away from it. If anything, because Dad's gone, they now have to double down their efforts to make sure that this family business survives. But on a greater level, it's just, I want to know what the hell that was. I need to know that wasn't just a weird, like, I can't remember who they talked to, but somebody said something about a weird weather event. And, he's not buying it.
Yeah.
There's no way. My family, they were raised out there. It's nobody's ever seen metal fall out of the sky and kill someone, let alone father. And so I do like how OJ is sort of like, he's going to find out what's going on. He's going to solve this mystery, and what a mystery it is. What I find really interesting, on top of the fact that all the characters are unique, what I love about Peele's films, this one in particular, is I really feel I know all of them. At every single one of his movies, I feel like all of his characters are familiar. And that's a real testament to the writing, because there's movies that I watch, so many that I won't name, that I'm just like, okay, you are merely a device to move the story or to move the narrative or to make something happen. You're not a full-fledged character. Whereas Jordan Peele, like Quentin Tarantino, is really, really good at giving us characters that maybe pop up for 2 minutes, one monologue, whatever. You never see them again, but you feel like they were in the whole movie. Again, a testament to the craft of what he does. What I find interesting is that he put in that whole backstory for Jupe. Like, if you really think about it, you could take all of that out, regarding all the flashbacks of Jupe being on that show, all the flashbacks about Jupe being the sole survivor of the chimpanzee attack when the show went sideways. You wouldn't have to, you could literally just, okay, he's this guy, he was on a show, people want to come and check out his memorabilia and come to his amusement park. You could have just left it there. And I kept thinking, why? Why would he give us such backstory, particularly on Jupe? In particular. And I think it has to do with, obviously, the ethical questions, how people deal with trauma. Like, we see how OJ is dealing with the trauma of loss of his father. But you also see how Jupe is dealt with this childhood trauma, and how he's really kind of just turned lemons into lemonade in a lot of ways. But he kind of gets cocky in a way. And he sees everything as an opportunity, and he doesn't consider that maybe there could be a threat, and that's ultimately his mistake. Again, a testament to Jordan Peele's filmmaking, his storytelling, that he layers in all those flashbacks, because I could see a movie like this being made and all of that being taken out, and it ends up being a less powerful piece, a less interesting piece. That's just my opinion, though.
Take honestly, because it really did come down. It really does come down to the characters and their motives. The perspective on things is what really kind of it really more interesting than just another sci-fi UFO
Right.
type movie. We see how a lot of movies like that are kind of made in a certain way, and it what makes it really interesting is how relatable characters can be in those type of circumstances. Like, we see a lot of alien movies, like even even I don't want to mention this in your presence, I know how you feel about Alien Romulans or Romulus. But you
I'm sure I'll see it someday.
yeah, it probably when it dies down, and it might be worth it. I don't know, I might stream it. But yeah, if you think about action, it's usually very horror based. As far as like, you're gonna have two types of people. You're gonna, like, we need to get out of here. It's like, you're gonna have people who say we need to kill it. We need to. Other people are like, we need to find a way to, to harness it and use it to our advantage. Things like that. You always have different types of characters with different motives towards, like, monsters and like monster type films. But honestly, yeah, man, this particular movie was interesting because they didn't even want to kill it. They just wanted proof that it existed. So they went through a lot to really learn how to locate it, how to try to find ways to take pictures of it, and
Right.
learn how not to die in the process. So that part was really that really made the movie really interesting because that's really learn how to deal with it. And honestly, the UAP as a character to it as well.
Sure.
I
Well, it's
loved how
basically it's. I mean, and I'm not saying this to in any negative way because Jaws from 1975 is a perfect movie. I mean, it is up there with Godfather, Blade Runner, Casablanca. It is a perfect movie. And basically, he basically took Jaws, he made it a fucking UFO, and it's brilliant. It's
modern
absolutely
Jaws
brilliant.
movie, modern
Right.
Jaws movie.
It's modern Jaws, and and that's so much more interesting that I think what unfortunately I think Alien can be is slasher movie in space. Whereas it would have been so easy to make Nope an alien slasher movie where the UAP comes over the hills and takes people out one by one. He doesn't do that at all. I mean, it certainly does kill people and it does take people away, but it's not
Refined
formulated
fashion.
in any way. Whereas in a lot of alien sci-fi horror films, it's just people being taken over or deleted or cocooned or eaten or disappeared one right after the other. And you really have to be super talented, super aesthetic to make that work. Otherwise, that's kind of something that we've seen over and over. Again, with Peele, he doesn't fall for any of those tropes. He doesn't follow any of those traps. He plays against all of them. And it's so freaking interesting to watch. Again, the whole background with the jupe, the level of planning and strategy between OJ and Emerald and Angel. It becomes this sort of exploration. Like if this was 100 years ago, you could see these people, maybe somewhere in a desert or the ruins of some ancient civilization, and they're there just out of curiosity. They're doing it for the satisfaction and the enrichment of knowledge. Only it's set in present day. It's like, no, we got to know what's going on here. Again, I love that sort of intellectual drive that is there in the script and is there in the characters. It's not them just sitting there and just pontificating. I wonder. But it's no. We're going to figure out what this thing is, what it's about. Uh, I know I digress, but I dig that part of it.
Yeah, I dig that a lot too. I definitely like the conviction behind the characters. I really like their development throughout the story. Um, and honestly, I really got to give it up to Jordan Peele on how they made um, Jacket itself such an interesting monster antagonist in itself because we've
Right.
seen all types of aliens. We want to get back. I want to get back to that point.
Right.
And how they had to basically learn how this thing behaves and thinks, and we had to use perspective to really understand it better. And that was through OJ. OJ, his rationale that it behaves like an animal. So you have to,
Hmm.
basically treat it as an animal in a sense where you're not threatening, you know, I can lure it out.
Right.
Find a way to basically get it to show itself because it was definitely an intelligent creature, the
Sure.
UAP. It knew how to, hide itself, when to come out, when to eat, you know, and it also wasn't just a stupid, animal. It was definitely showing signs that it was aware that it was being watched, and it was doing things to target the other characters, like when Emerald and Brandon Emerald and Brandon were in the
Angel.
house,
Angel.
and it was I'm sorry, Angel. Thank you. But yeah. Emerald and Angel were in the house, and it was literally just dropping the debris and some of the bones from blood from the bodies on top of the house, and
Yeah.
it knew it was there, and it was doing it to freak them out, intentionally.
Yep.
And it did the same thing, um, with OJ in his car. It was basically trying to find them, and that was tripped out. Okay,
No,
okay, he just
that's
hides.
a great point. That's a great point. That's the one point in the movie where the beast is showing its fangs in a way. It's hovering over the house, and at first it's just heavy rain coming down, but then it all becomes blood, and then you realize, oh yeah, he just ate a stadium full of people. Oh my God, that's bits and pieces of people falling down on the house. How effing terrifying is that? Again, those little bits and pieces, but it also, you're right. It it creates more character for the creature, because up until then, it's something that is, it sort of, it flies around, it sucks up its food, and
It was a
then it
UFO.
flies
Yeah,
away. But now it's showing you exactly what it can do to you, and that's just, oh God, it was creepy, really creepy.
it was creepy, and I thought it was really amazing that they
Oh
actually,
yeah,
took that route. Because honestly, you're thinking like going in, you think it's just a UFO. You're thinking it's going to be aliens on an alien ship or something. Then you
right.
actually see the abduction of Jupe and all the stadium people, and how horrifying that was. How they're just kind of being sucked through a vacuum. You can't really see everything that's going on. It's just like they're just kind of getting sucked through like
Well,
a really tight hole, and it's just
exactly.
noises and just
It
flashing
actually, it
lights.
shows you people getting like sort of chopped up and digested. Like it's, again, I don't think we've ever seen that in a movie. One, that the ship itself is the creature. That the whole thing is just a living being. Two, it's showing you how it digests its prey. And then, if I may, again, if you guys haven't turned this off yet, again, and we've spoiled so much, I'm going to
It's
probably
yeah,
one of the biggest friggin' spoilers of
watch the
the
movie.
entire movie is as we get to the end, as they're trying to trap it, and one trap it, sort of like try to kill it, but also get a photo of it. Jordan Peele shows us just how big a fan he is of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and this thing starts to open up, and basically like one of the angels from Ava, and it just
Yeah,
keeps opening up and opening up and opening. It transforms, and I can't remember, is it Ramiel, or like there's all these
that's a
different
good question.
angels, but some of the movements, the transformation is straight out of one of the Ava movies. I think it's Ava 1.11 or something like that. And I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, you are the
Oh
fucking
crap!
man. Only you would put that. Only you would make your alien an angel from Evangelion in your movie. And then, on top of that, as they're trying to lure this thing over the camera, we have one of our heroes, Kiki Palmer, Emerald, pulls an Akira fucking bike slide, a Kaneda style bike
Wait,
slide
wait,
to get. Oh, dude! Again,
lit
absolute genius. Absolute genius. One of the dopest
Easter
things
egg.
I've seen in a movie. I just, Jordan Peele is an absolute maestro. He's an absolute master of his craft. And, he had me before. He had us with those other two movies. But putting stuff like that into this film, I'll watch that guy eat a sandwich. If he just wants to record himself eating a sandwich, he can make anything. He can do no wrong.
It was, yeah, that was, man, I love that so much. And I love the fact that and honestly it's a really great reference too, because Jordan Peele is an Akira fan. He's an anime fan.
Yep.
And the thing is, he actually did, I looked this up, he actually did get offered the role as director for an Akira, live action adaptation, but he turned it down because he said, mess with a classic. So that was, it
Good
might
for
have been
him.
like a nod. Yeah, I don't think it should be made, man. Some things are just not meant to be,
Right.
live action. I feel like, that's
I'm
meant to
I'm a,
be cinema.
I
It's,
one
it's too good.
I agree with him, and I agree with you. I Here's the thing,
Oh,
and
we can
maybe
do it.
we'll do an episode sometime of remakes that
Sure.
worked or remakes that actually exceeded the originals. There's not a lot of them, but they do exist. I just think that Akira is such a big deal. It's such a big part of otaku culture, geek culture, sci-fi culture, comics culture, that it's, I don't think whoever helms it will get the needed freedom to do it justice. And speaking of Akira, and we'll button Akira here. Back in 2019, I saw multiple news outlets talk about that Katsuhiro Otomo, who created Akira, was going to be doing an anime TV series of the Akira manga. So when they did the movie, the manga wasn't over yet. So they had to kind of create an ending just for the movie. Apparently, there was a plan to animate all 6 phone book size manga collections. And I heard that, I'm like, that's as a unrepentant anime and manga old head, I'm there. I'm like, take my money.
Yeah, I would do that. Yeah. I think
I haven't, and then COVID hit and I haven't heard anything about it since then. And so I hope that, and again, I don't know how old Otomo is. I know he's not a young man, but I would still like to see somebody pick, if you're going to do anything, if you're going to revive Akira in any way, just animate the entire manga in Otomo style with a mega budget, because you'll make money hand over fist. But anyways, good for Peele to turn that down. Peele doesn't strike me as the type of guy. I feel like he's going to end up charting a course like Tarantino, like Nolan doing, well, not Nolan, because Nolan did Batman, but like Tarantino in doing his own stuff. And again, if these first 3 films are any indication, man, I'm fine with it.
He's really shown that, and it's something that people need right now. Anyway, we need more original, stories, more original storytelling.
Yes.
We're still kind of living in an aftermath, and it seems like a second coming of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and for better or worse, people are in fact getting kind of tired of these grandiose, high big budget blockbuster movies, with the huge continuity stream of a full on, mega story.
Right.
People are, for better, like I said, for better or worse. It doesn't seem like I'm tired because, I grew up with comic books.
There's room. No, I'm a big believer that I agree with you. There's room for everyone, but I think the criticism is there's room for everyone, but it's only franchise films that are getting the green light. When we know for a fact, as horror fans, as sci-fi fans, we've been in a renaissance of horror since the Japanese kicked it off in '98 with Ringu. It started there and it sort of bled all over, into the US and parts of Europe. Horror is the most malleable, most fertile genre, and has been for over a decade now, because you can do anything with it. You could do Alien, you could do The Exorcist, you could do Nope, you could do It Follows, you could do Let the Right One In, and then you can do The Conjuring. All those. It's pretty wide open. Whereas it feels like other genre are either being crowded out, or we're just getting mostly what industry thinks we want or what they feel comfortable doing. Again, there's room for everybody. I don't think that you can continue to make great superhero films. Deadpool versus Wolverine was fantastic. But the audiences need to be acknowledged that they do want variety and they do want originality. And we'll go watch 5 $30 million films like we will go watch a $170 million film like Dune or Dune Part 2, which are all fantastic. But we need to your point, you and I are going to watch this stuff, but we also really want our original stuff. We want our Jordan Peels. We want our Chris Nolans. We want, all of the content that's made for Shudder.com. There's so much really great original stuff on Tubi. All these things, the Blumhouse. I mean, Blumhouse is probably one of the most incredible successes of the past 12 to 15 years in that they have capped at $5 million budgets, and they're some of the most watched films because they do interesting, original, cool stuff. I would like sci-fi and slice of life and family drama and all that. I would like that to be as diverse as horror is, because there's room to tell all sorts of stories. We focus on a lot of like fun, scary, films on this channel, and we're going to branch out beyond that. But I think it's just because the momentum creatively is really in that genre.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. It totally does. It's definitely a huge market for stories or that give people, emotional responses, and I feel like that's honestly the easiest one is finding new ways to scare people,
Right.
or surprise them. It's usually the easiest one, or actually, you even give them even more. Be it things that are violent, things that may be sexual, things that may have types of humor in it, maybe for comedic elements, like comedy
Sure.
relief or things like that. Usually with horror, you can get all types of emotions in one movie, all types of different types of storytelling, so to speak. But all the other genres are, in fact, it seems like in a sense they're kind of more of a niche than horror actually is. It's kind of like the opposite. Like horror, even though it is a niche in itself, contains a lot of different emotional narratives, that you wouldn't be able to get from all the other types of movies that are being made. So that makes a lot of sense that yeah, horror's working as well as it does, whereas opposed to all the other ones. It seems like it seems like the industry is really struggling to tell new good stories out of other genres, which is unfortunate. But
Well, and it's well. Here's the thing: the beauty of the fact that technology has democratized the ability to make films. These movies are going to come regardless. Unfortunately, industry waits until they recognize a trend, until the number crunchers and the MBAs and the finance bros at the studios realize that there's other stuff to be made, then they'll do it. But they aren't going to do it until somebody else surprises them. What's really been interesting to me is you had Everything Everywhere All at Once, for example, sweep the Oscars. All the actors started in genre films. The film itself is a genre film. There's no reason why anyone would think that that movie would win Best Picture and win Best Actress and win Best Act. And it did. It won all of those things. And yet, I don't know if there's. We didn't see it. We didn't see major studios start dropping a whole bunch of really wacky, interesting multiversal movies. You know what I mean? So I think it's a little beyond their wheelhouse. So as I said to a friend of mine who is a cinematographer, it really does sit with us, those of us that write the stories and those of us that create things. Even if we're doing it on a guerrilla basis, we're doing it on a mid to no level budget. Um, that's where it's going to come from. Uh, they're not. I know somebody who works for one of the major studios that a lot of these some of the larger budget sci-fi movies have done really well. Dune and Dune Part 2 are great examples of that. But we also have some major ultra budget movies that absolutely did not perform well. And I think industry is starting to learn that it might be okay to take a risk on a $30 million movie than almost lose our shirt again on a $200 million movie. So it's moving. It's getting there. But the beautiful thing is we can make things now, and we can get things onto whether they be sort of niche streamers like Shudder, like Arrow, and sort of you can find your people. But people like Jordan Peele and people like Tarantino have proven over and over that the audience is more varied and desires a greater diversity of creativity than maybe we're given credit for. Like for example, with Nope, since we're on Nope, Nope had a budget of $68 million. The initial box office was $172.3 million. So it made its money back and then some. And that's something that horror films, they tend to be smaller budget films, and they always most of the time, bring back more than they, are budgeted for. Let me look here. I thought it was either Get Out or where I think Get Out was. Jesus. Okay. Get Out was even smaller than a normal Blumhouse. It was only 4.5 million, and the
Mm.
box office was 255.4 million. I mean, dude, that's you blow the doors off like that, and they kind of let you do whatever the hell you want. Let's see, Us. Um, Us was Us was 20 million. So Us was literally 4 times the budget of Get Out, and that brought in 256.1 million. So again, 10 times what, more than 10 times what it was budgeted for. So again, it's luckily people recognized the originality. They heard about it and they went and they supported these films of Jordan Peele's, and he's got some cachet, he's got some sway, and he can do these really original things. It's We just got to hope that more original people are able to do that, because it always bums me out when somebody does an original interesting film and it doesn't do well, and then we kind of never hear from those people again. So that's always a bummer.
That's that part I can't stand either. There's always a lot of great movies they may not sell at the box office, and it doesn't necessarily. It shouldn't be the make or break thing. I wish Hollywood would still look at those movies that even if a movie didn't make a lot of money, like if it was actually good, look at the you look at the box office, you look at the reviews, you look at like the amount of reviews and see what people are saying. And if the reviews like certain movies that are, meant to maybe be bigger or meant to open up to other projects, then I feel like the door shouldn't be closed on those type of people. There's a lot of movies that I like
Right.
that are
No, there are people that do come back. Like I'm trying to remember whoever the guy was that did Terminator Dark Fate. Tim Miller. Dark Fate didn't do well, but he ended up he didn't do well on Terminator Dark Fate, but then he ended up directing, I think, the first Deadpool. So the industry is getting better at not necessarily holding a director responsible for, because there's a lot of reasons a movie might not do well. Maybe they didn't. There's movies that, and I've never understood this. Again, I'm outside of this, but I'll see movies that's like $160 million movie, and then they don't do anything to promote it, and then they get upset when it doesn't make any money. It's like, well, nobody knew it came out. For example, Blade Runner 2049. You and I are huge Blade Runner fans. We're huge cyberpunks. Blade Runner 2049 was not a success. It was a critical success. It's a beautiful movie. It's really good, but it really didn't make a lot of money. I'm almost certain of that. Let me try to pull it up here. But again, they didn't hold Villeneuve solely responsible for the. It was a budget of 150 to 185 million. Box office was 276.6 million. So I'm sure they probably wanted to make 10 times the money back. And I feel like if something like that was dropped today, it probably would. I don't know why, because Blade Runner, the original, is such a beloved film. It's such a classic. It's like Jaws, one of the most perfect films ever made. Literally defines an entire genre of film. I'm not sure why 2049 did not do more money into box office than that. But there's a whole bunch of reasons why. But I'm just glad that Peele is doing as well as he's doing, and it's he is as free to do as what he wants, because we need guys like him. We need like 100 more like him. We need people who are willing to do weird stuff and do interesting stuff and do Easter eggy inside baseball weird anime stuff. So you and I are sitting in there and they're just like, yes. and then we get on social media and help them make even more money by telling people to buy and watch and rent. So
yeah, that's how it works. I think it comes down to, I think Peele is definitely creative. It's definitely an innovative mind, but I think like I said, it's diversity and it's the relatability that he's able to find ways to use his brand of filmmaking and bring it to people that either may not be familiar with certain genres, or maybe certain themes, maybe certain elements or certain types of characters, and he's able to kind of bridge the gap in a creative way. Like he's able to do things in a way where it's intriguing to different types of people. and get people's attention. He uses a lot of social media to really promote himself and his work, and the word of
Yes.
mouth just kind of spreads around
Well,
from there. So it's a
he
system.
feel he's such. I feel like, sorry to interrupt. He's one of us. Like, I feel like he, if granted, he is a celebrity, he is a genius comedian, he is a genius writer director, but at the end of the day, he's just a geek like the rest of us. He's the type of guy who would go to cons and pick up esoteric, bootleg anime and manga and go home and enjoy that sort of stuff. Like, he's one of us. He's making movies for you and me. And I can think of, and again, he's like John Carpenter in that respect. John Carpenter made films, even though like he was a gun for hire for a lot of movies. Some of his stuff he did write and direct, but some of it he was just a director. He still always did stuff that he found interesting. He always did stuff that was like, you're doing a remake of Children of the Damned. You're doing a remake of a 1950s movie now. Why? Well, because it's interesting to me, because it's fun, because and that's exactly what Peele does. And they're always comparing Peele to Carpenter, and Carpenter apparently loves Jordan Peele, as he recognizes in him, obviously, the skill, the ability, the willingness to take risks, and that's really great creativity, incredible skill. But on top of that, he's obviously, like you said, this principled guy who was basically offered to direct the live action Akira. And because he has so much love and reverence for Akira, like we do, he's like, nope, nah, I don't need to do that because the man, Otomo, already did it. There's no reason to touch it. I mean, what a class act. So we got to keep him happy and healthy, and we got to keep him around for a long, long time. But man,
he finished. We're just getting started with that guy.
Oh,
there's a lot of good stuff.
He's at the beginning of the beginning. I mean, he could just, what's coming his way, our way. I'm so excited about. Like the fact that he's announced his next film, which I think is coming out 25 or 26.
Couple of years. So it's going to be a grand slam.
Oh, I think because he's making, like he did with his first film, Get Out. Like he said in interviews, and people like said, what was the genesis of Get Out? He said, I just wrote a movie that I would want to watch. I just wanted to write the movie that I wanted to make. Also believing that he'd never get a chance to make that movie. And then what do you know, he did. And because somebody said yes to an original feature, we now have this beginning catalog of incredible movies. So, man, I really appreciate your coming on this, catalog perusal of movies. I definitely want to do more. Obviously we're going to do more stuff, but one person I failed to mention that I think is a peer of Jordan Peele that I think we should dig into soon is, oh, damn it, I'm blanking on his name. Hang on a second here. God damn it.
No problem.
Robert Eggers, he did The Witch, he did The Lighthouse, and he just did The Northman. He's got his 3 movies now too. He's got Nosferatu coming out soon. But he's another one. God. He's like Peele. He's an auteur. He's not making movies for them. He's not making movies wondering what do we want. He's just making the movies he wants to make, and they're really effing interesting as a result. But
that's the best.
Go ahead. Sorry.
To go. We need new talent of of directors and writers that can get out there and not just make movies from like one perspective, but also from different perspectives, and also with the synergy that is relatable to more than just one type of audience. I wish, one other thing I wish too, now that I got your platform, I always want to say this to somebody, I wish that film companies using bringing back, doing remakes or sequels or prequels of like already established franchises, that they could actually go back and take maybe failed franchises and reacquiring those and actually make good remakes out of maybe bad movies or movies that didn't really find an audience in their time or something. There's a lot of good movies.
Absolutely. There's so many movies out there that I've watched. I'm like, God, that was a really, really great premise, and it was almost perfectly executed. Or man, if they just had a better actor, or they had a better director, or the script was better. No, I agree with you. I think there's stuff out there that was super cheesy, Well, John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. That's a remake of like a 50s. I think the original The Thing, it's The Thing from Another World. It's okay. Maybe if I grew up with it, I'd feel differently. But what Carpenter did with that script and that movie, he blew the doors off. And that's what we need more of. Yeah, something. The Blob, I think, is another one. The Blob is an interesting, movie from like, what is it, 58, 59. But the 1988 remake was, they just amped everything up. What's another great example? Like when they rebooted the Battlestar Galactica TV series about 15 years ago, or however long ago it was. I mean, that blows the original out of the water. But anyways, no, I agree with you. I think maybe we should go and buy some of these defunct properties that nobody wants, and make them better. But we'll put a pin in it, man. This was fun. This was good stuff. But yeah, I think we should at some point dig into Robert Eggers, dig into some of these other auteurs that are out there, because it's good stuff. But thank you for coming along on this ride with me, man. And
absolutely,
we've got some fun stuff that we won't say anything about now, but that's exactly. Ooh, we're gonna go hardcore old head in a couple episodes here. So strap in, everybody, and be willing to learn. Just because it's not new doesn't mean it's not any good. But yeah, in the meantime, guys, let us know what you thought of Nope, what you thought of the other Jordan Peele films. Please comment below, like, subscribe, dislike, hate us, but say something and get us on the algorithm. And until next time, we'll see you then. Be safe, everybody.
Yeah.